Hello and a very warm welcome to a brand new edition of World Panorama on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Over the next half an hour, we'll bring you a roundup of all the significant developments to have taken place around the world this week. But first up, a look at the headlines. Barack Obama unveils broad-based strategy to fight global terrorism, urges Muslim leaders to bring an end to violence, comes out with a four-part plan to stop terrorist groups across the Middle East and Africa. Fighting rages in eastern Ukraine despite European efforts to resurrect a stillborn ceasefire. Pro-Russian separatists force thousands of government troops out of a strategic town. Relieved forces retreat to government-controlled area. Former Thailand Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra formally indicted over rice subsidy scheme. Supreme Court to take a decision on whether to accept or reject a lawsuit on March 19th. Contradictory claims on blowing up of Pakistani boat off Gujarat coasters. Major controversy. Pakistan demands explanation from India on what caused the boat to explode. India rubbishes Coast Guard officer's claim. And Cristiano Ronaldo ends three-game goal drought as Real Madrid beat Schalke in the Champions League quarters. Holders take a healthy lead to Madrid for the return leg on March 10th. Our top focus on the program this week. US President Barack Obama unveiled a broad-based global strategy to fight terrorist recruitment and extremist violence that targets Muslim communities. His four-part plan couples economic development and democratic change with a large dose of direct military action to stop terrorist groups across the Middle East and Africa. Here's a report.
US President Barack Obama called on the international community to curb the spread of extremism by underscoring that the West is not at war with Islam.
We have to confront the warped ideologies espoused by terrorists like Al-Qaeda and ISIL, especially their attempt to use Islam to justify their violence. I discussed this at length yesterday. These terrorists are desperate for legitimacy.
Obama said young Muslims are being targeted by extremist propaganda, which could incite them to join Islamic State or carry out attacks domestically.
All of us have a responsibility to refute the notion that groups like ISIL somehow represent Islam, because that is a falsehood that embraces the terrorist narrative. At the same time, we must acknowledge that groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIL are deliberately targeting their propaganda to Muslim communities, particularly Muslim youth.
Obama made the statements at a three-day anti-terror summit in Washington, which started on Tuesday. The summit followed recent shootings in Copenhagen and Paris that have galvanized Western resolve against such extremist attacks.
It's not a question of Jews or Christians or Muslims. We're all in the same boat. And we have to help each other to get out of this crisis.
Obama called on religious and political leaders in countries such as Syria and Iraq to end sectarian violence, claiming this fuels terrorist groups. This was the closest Obama came to answering US critics who have attacked him for refusing to label terrorist groups as Islamic extremists. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Joining me for a chat on the program this week is former diplomat, Ambassador Jayant Prasad. Ambassador, thank you for joining me on the program. Let's talk about Barack Obama and his anti-terror plan, really. Do you think that it's viable? Do you think that, more really needs to be done than what has been revealed by Barack Obama as far as tackling Islamic terrorism is concerned?
Tackling Islamism in that region will not be successful unless there is local traction for it. And unless the states of the region themselves take it upon themselves as their responsibility to pursue it, because of the US reluctance to put boots on the ground. So there is a little bit of a handicap that American policy has in the region because of what happened in Afghanistan and subsequently in Iraq. There is great reluctance for making further military commitments.
Yes. And that is very obvious, isn't it? I mean, you can see it that the US, especially Barack Obama, is very reluctant in sending troops on the ground. He's time and again maintained that there will not be boots on the ground. But like you said, let's take it forward a little bit and talk about really how this issue can be resolved if there are no boots on the ground. Are mere airstrikes enough to deter the Islamic State?
Well, the Islamic State leadership has been scurrying around for cover because The strike rate of the Americans is, it is estimated that about 1,000 to 1,500 Islamist fighters are killed every month. But their recruitment is quite large, and about the same number of recruits are flowing into their ranks. It is estimated that there are about at least 20,000 hardcore fighters, of which a significant proportion come from the West. And some of them are battle-hardened veterans from...
Do you think that particular issue, the issue of recruiting youth, especially from France and, countries like the UK and many other countries in Europe, do you think that issue has been addressed adequately, or do you think something more needs to be done as far as that particular issue is concerned?
No, I think that issue has been addressed in the mother countries or the source countries. But the people who have joined the Daesh or the Islamic State are out there in the field. And you can't decimate everybody by an air warfare conducted remotely. So there is going to be a festering problem for a long period of time. And there is also another looming conundrum that the Americans have, that they have not given up their quest for regime change in Syria. And that means that together with a country like Turkey, they would continue to train so-called moderate opposition, armed opposition against the Syrian regime, who would also simultaneously be tasked to fight the Daesh or the Islamic State. This is tall order indeed, because they cannot really divide themselves and have a two-faced approach. On the one hand, fighting the Islamic State, on the other hand, fighting the Assad regime in Syria. It is an impossible task.
Indeed. Saudi Arabia, one of the dominant forces in the region, has played a very vital role in the past. Do you see Saudi Arabia, with the help of the United States, playing a more active role in the region to try and restore their own interests?
I don't see it happening in a hurry, because Saudi Arabia has had a tremendous transition. They have had a regime change. They have a new king, a new heir to the throne in place. So they will require a little more space and time for their internal governance structures to settle into a new pattern. And therefore, I doubt very much that the Saudis are going to come forward in taking a more active role than they are currently doing in dealing with the Daesh.
On one hand, in the Middle East, you have the Islamic State and you have the problem of that is created by them. On the other hand, in Africa, you have other Islamist groups, in fact, creating their own kind of problems. Boko Haram seems to be gaining day by day. Then you have the Al-Shabaab, and there are several other factions there within Africa itself. So do you see, a more active role from maybe the United Nations, NATO, or the United States in Africa?
Well, in Africa, United States has strengthened its partnership, and that goes back 15 years from the first term of the George W. Bush administration. They had troops in Mali, in Western Africa. They have been stepping up their training programs there. This is a problem which is global in dimension. And as Barack Obama has a problem, President Obama said that no religion preaches terrorism. It is organizations and individuals that do, and groups that are constituted with a political aim. But it is also true that both Al-Qaeda and the ISIS have ideological moorings, and these moorings come from their identification with an Islamist orientation of a lack of distinction between the secular and the religious in the domain of governance of states. And that problem is a real problem. It's an ideological problem also that not just United States, but all societies where there are minorities or religious minorities are confronted with. So to that extent, it is an intractable issue, and it's going to stay with us for some time.
It is indeed going to stay with us for some time. But, were you happy with the way Barack Obama really approached the issue? He said the war is not against Islam, but the war is against extremists who are in fact, adulterating Islam with their ideologies.
Well, this is a message which is a consistent message, consistent with what the leaders of Algeria have said in the past, or the leaders of any other country confronted with this kind of Islamist extremism have responded, including in India. We also say exactly the same thing, because to identify the problem that we are confronted with the Islamic State or the Taliban or the Al-Qaeda is that all the members of these organizations are Muslims, but not all Muslims are terrorists. So there is a conundrum, and President Obama, in very simplistic terms, has explained to the American people that they are not to be confounded with Islam. And it's a message that he let out not to the American people. He spoke at a conference where there were Muslim dignitaries and leaders from other countries present. So he was also appealing to them for their cooperation, and he was a bit constrained. But I must say, it's not how we respond to what he said. The American people have responded to him in a mixed manner, and some have been very, very unhappy
and
with his statement, very critical of his statement.
So how is he going to address that? I mean, because the people or the Americans are not very happy with what he has said.
But there is an ideological divide. I mean, the conservatives, the Republicans, the Fox News channel anchors like O'Reilly, they have gone hammer and tongs at him for failing to identify the problem correctly. But I think by and large, he is right in his approach that a distinction has to be made whenever the public is addressed, because not all public is informed public.
Indeed, indeed. All right, Ambassador, we'll have to leave to that. Thank you so much for putting things into perspective for us on this particular issue and sharing your views on what's likely to happen as far as Islamic terrorism is concerned as well. Moving on now, of course, Thailand's Attorney General filed charges against deposed Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra. The case over a controversial rice subsidy scheme could result in a 10-year jail term if she is found guilty. Here's a detailed report.
Thailand's former Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra was indicted for negligence in overseeing a controversial rice subsidy program that lost billions of dollars and resulted in the country temporarily losing its crown as the world's top rice exporter to India. The Attorney General pressed criminal charges against the country's first woman Prime Minister Shinawatra for negligence related to her then government's money-losing rice subsidy program.
วันนี้สำนักงานอัยการสูงสุดนะครับโดยอัยการสูงสุดเนี่ยได้เป็นโจทยื่นฟ้องนางสาวยิ่งลักษณ์ชินวัตรอดีตนายกรัฐมนตรีเป็นจำเลยต่อศาลฎีกาแผนกคดีอาญาของผู้ดำรงตำแหน่งทางการเมือง
Prosecutors submitted 20 boxes of the case's documents to the Supreme Court's Criminal Division for political title holders. The Supreme Court will take a decision on March 19th whether to accept or reject the lawsuit.
ศาลฎีกาแผนกคดีอาญาของผู้ดำรงตำแหน่งการเมืองเนี่ยรับคำฟ้องไว้แล้วก็นัดฟังคำสั่งนะครับวันที่ 19 มีนาคม 2558 เวลา 10 นาฬิกานะครับ
Yingluck did not turn up in court and instead sent her lawyer to submit her letter to the Attorney General explaining her reasons for not meeting the public prosecutor.
ท่านอดีตนายกรัฐมนตรีท่านยืนยันครับว่าเมื่อได้รับสำเนาคำฟ้องและก็มีการกำหนดพิจารณาครั้งแรกท่านพร้อมจะเข้าสู่กระบวนการยุติธรรมนะครับในส่วนตรงนั้น
Yingluck was ousted by a court decision shortly before the military staged a coup last May and seized power from her elected government. The National Anti-Corruption Commission recommended that the Finance Ministry sue Yingluck for compensation for damage caused by the rice program and suggested the amount should be at least $18.4 billion. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Moving on now, Ukraine has called on the UN to deploy its peacekeepers to ensure that the fragile ceasefire in the country holds. This as Germany continued efforts to push for peace in the country and US stepped up the blame on Russia for arming rebels. Here's more.
Russia looks increasingly cornered from all sides as the ceasefire fails to hold in Ukraine's east. But Moscow remains resolute and has even dismissed Ukraine's appeal for UN peacekeepers to monitor the crumbling ceasefire.
Заявление господина Феллона, конечно, уже за гранью дипломатической этики и совершенно нетерпимой характеристики, которую он дал Российской Федерации. Чем-то мне это напомнило.
NATO's top commander today expressed concerns over the truce, which just remains on papers now, even as Britain pledged solidarity with NATO against Russia. Earlier, Britain accused Russian President Vladimir Putin of posing a danger to the Baltic states.
So your question to me is, has the ceasefire been broken? My question back to you would be, did the ceasefire ever begin? Did we ever have a ceasefire?
There is no doubt that we're seeing a more aggressive behaviour by the Russians and by Mr. Putin, both in the Ukraine and elsewhere, testing NATO's defences. We are ready for that. We will remain resolute and united in the face of any provocation.
It's been a year since the mass uprising in Kyiv that ousted President Viktor Yanukovych. The crisis has now taken an entirely new turn, but the Independence Square bears reminders of the violent clashes that claimed over 100 lives in February 2014. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, it's time for a short break now, but up next, Greece and Germany have stepped back from the brink, and for now, Greece remains in the Eurozone. But for how long? We'll tell you on the other side. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha Television. Well, Greece and Eurozone nations have agreed to a deal to extend financial aid after bailout talks in Brussels. Eurozone finance ministers reached an agreement to extend Greece's financial rescue by 4 months. The Dutch finance minister, who heads the Eurogroup, said that Athens had pledged to honour all its debts. In return for the extension, Greece has agreed to present an initial list of reform measures by Monday. The Greek finance minister said that he would work night and day between now and Monday to devise the new list. Eurozone officials will then review the reforms and see if they go far enough to appease creditors. If finance chiefs are left unsatisfied, there is still a chance the deal will be scrapped.
It's an important first step, and we hope that it will lead to a successful second step on Monday night, Tuesday morning. But then, of course, there's a third step with ratifications in parliaments.
Solange das Programm nicht successfully concluded ist, gibt es keine Auszahlung. Keine. Denn das ist klar. Nur die letzte.
Moving on now, a controversy is raging as to what happened to the Pakistani boat that exploded off the Gujarat coast on the night of 31st December last year. Coast Guard DIG B.K. Loshali made a U-turn on Wednesday after media reports quoted him saying that he ordered the suspect Pakistani boat to be blown up. Here's a report.
Let me introduce
Both the Defence Ministry and the Coast Guard on Wednesday denied media reports that quoted a DIG as saying they destroyed a Pakistani terrorist boat on the night of 31st December last year off the Porbandar coast.
If any news channel shows that he has said that, I will inquire and find out. If someone tomorrow makes a statement which is incorrect, at the most you are making a case of a disciplinary proceeding against him. I told you so clear. We stand by what we said.
लोशाली साहब जो है वो बता रहे हैं कि उनको आउट ऑफ कॉन्टेस्ट कोट किया गया है, जो भी न्यूज़पेपर आप बात कर रहे हैं उनके जो फैक्ट्स है वो गलत कोट किए गए हैं एंड फैक्चुअल पोजीशन वही है जो कोस्ट गार्ड बोलता रहा है.
But the Indian Express newspaper, which reported DIG Loshali's statements, uploaded the video in which he reportedly made the remarks.
I hope you remember 31st December night. We blew off the Pakistan. We have blown them off.
DIG Loshali later claimed at a press conference that he was misquoted.
I was not privy to whatever was happening. So I have been misquoted. The boat has actually set herself on fire and sunk.
Soon after the incident, both the Defence Ministry as well as Minister Manohar Parrikar said that crew set the boat on fire themselves when they were asked to surrender. The opposition, however, took the government to task, questioning Parrikar's earlier statement.
The defence minister has come out with a statement that it was the Pakistan terrorists and they blown the boat themselves. This statement was made by the defence minister. Subsequently, the different statements came, and now the whole thing looks very much confused.
Government must explain. Government must come clean and explain everything to the people and the country. Otherwise, people will start questioning.
Did the Coast Guard carry out a correct standard operating procedure? Yes. Were the rules of engagement correct? Yes. They did what they were supposed to do to save the sovereignty of the nation.
According to the Defence Ministry, the Pakistani vessel set off from near Karachi on the eve of New Year and reportedly had 4 occupants. After the incident, there was speculation that the Pakistani boat was inside the Indian maritime boundary for drug trafficking or smuggling. But the government denied that theory. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, reacting to the controversy, Pakistan demanded an explanation from India on the Coast Guard operation against the boat. The development comes as India and Pakistan's foreign secretaries are set to resume dialogue next month. Defence Minister Khwaja Asif slammed New Delhi, accusing it of being heinous in its face after the controversial claim by the Coast Guard officer that his force had blown up the boat in December last year. He accused India of violating international rules and disregarding humanitarian considerations. Asif reiterated that Pakistan's desire for peace and coexistence in the region must not be seen as its weakness. Well, much else has been unfolding around the world. Here's a quick wrap of the other international news of the week.
The European Central Bank has agreed to raise the emergency funding available to Greek banks to 68.3 billion euros. The 3.3 billion euros increase is the so-called emergency liquidity assistance is critical for Greece banks. Depositors have been taking savings out of the country, depleting the bank's access to cash to lend. However, the Greek Central Bank is said to have requested an additional 10 billion euros of emergency funding. The deal will give Athens breathing space to negotiate a loan deal with its European creditors. Libya has asked the United Nations Security Council to lift an arms embargo so that it can deal with the Islamic State group and other militants. Foreign Minister Mohammed Al-Dairi said that it would help the government build its army and deal with rampant terrorism. Egypt said it supported Libya's request at an emergency session of the UN Council on Wednesday. Rival militias have been battling for control in Libya since 2011. The worsening security situation has increased fears that the country's warring militias may side with the IS militants. At least 37 people were killed in an airstrike in southern Niger. They were attending a funeral ceremony in an abandoned village on the border with Nigeria when an unidentified plane began dropping bombs. The incident came as the Nigerian army said more than 300 militants were killed in nearby northeast Nigeria during operations targeting Boko Haram. 8 people were killed in a suicide blast in Lahore in Pakistan on Tuesday. Government officials said the bomber blew himself up outside a police complex in the Kila Gujar Singh area. Several vehicles near the blast site caught fire. The Pakistani Taliban claimed the responsibility for the attack. The city police chief said the bomber's target appeared to be the police headquarters, but apparently the bomb went off prematurely.
Let's shift focus now and bring you up to date with all the sports news that you might have missed this week. Here's our sports wrap. Chelsea withstood waves of Paris Saint-Germain attacks to claim a draw in the first leg of their Champions League last 16 tie. Branislav Ivanovic headed Jose Mourinho's team in front after Gary Cahill's flick from John Terry's cross. But PSG dominated the second half and scored a deserved equaliser when Edinson Cavani headed in. Cavani came close to scoring a winner but prodded his effort wide after swapping passes with Blaise Matuidi. Chelsea progressed at PSG's expense in last season's quarterfinals when they won on away goals after it finished 3-3 on aggregate. Cristiano Ronaldo ended a 3-game goal drought as Real Madrid took control of their Champions League last 16 tie with Schalke in Germany. The forward's form was questioned before kick-off, but he headed in Dani Carvajal's cross to open the scoring. He also created the second goal, which arrived moments after Schalke's Felix Plath had smashed against the bar. Marcelo capitalized, driving into the top corner, and the holders will take a healthy lead to Madrid on 10th of March. Afghanistan's historic first World Cup match ended in a 105-run defeat by Bangladesh in Canberra. Chasing 268, the Afghans did not recover from being 3 for 3 after 3 overs and were bowled out for 162. For Afghanistan, becoming the 20th team to take part in the World Cup is the continuation of a remarkable journey that has been set against the backdrop of continuing conflict in their homeland. In 2008, they were playing in the 5th and the bottom tier of the International Cricket Council's World League but have since qualified for this tournament and 2 World T20s. Darren Clarke will captain holders Europe in the 2016 Ryder Cup match against the United States at Hazeltine, Minnesota. The 46-year-old Northern Irishman was appointed to succeed 2014 skipper Paul McGinley after a 5-man selection panel met at the tour's headquarters on the outskirts of London. Clarke was one of 3 candidates for the role along with Spain's Miguel Angel Jimenez and Thomas Bjorn of Denmark. Moving on now, a look at what's creating a buzz in the world of show business. Here's our entertainment roundup.
Oscar-nominated film Birdman has been honored at the Costume Designers Guild Awards in Los Angeles. The Michael Keaton movie won the prize for excellence in contemporary film, while Wes Anderson's The Grand Budapest Hotel won the Best Period Film category. Both films are nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards, although only Anderson's film is up for the Best Costume Oscar. Double Oscar winner Albert Wolsky's costumes in Birdman triumphed over Boyhood, Gone Girl, Interstellar and Wild. Erotic romance 50 Shades of Grey starring Jamie Dornan and Dakota Johnson has been banned in the UAE owing to its intimate scenes. National Media Council, the body tasked with approving films in the UAE, said the decision to withhold the release was taken after some serious deliberation during the review screening. The film, adapted from L. James's best-selling novel of the same name, hit US theaters last week. Countries such as Kenya, Indonesia and Malaysia have already banned it. The fifth installment in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise has officially commenced production. Disney has revealed the official plot synopsis for the film and confirmed that the title is Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales. Star Johnny Depp reprises his Oscar-nominated role as Captain Jack Sparrow, something that seemed unlikely after the disappointing fourth entry. But after a string of flops, Johnny Depp is playing it safe over the next 2 years with this and the Alice in Wonderland sequel. Singer-songwriter Leslie Gore, who topped the US charts with It's My Party, aged 16 in 1963, died aged 68. Her partner of 33 years, Lois Sasson, confirmed she had died of lung cancer at a New York City hospital. Gore's hits include feminist anthem You Don't Own Me and the Oscar-nominated Out Here on My Own from the 1980 film Fame. She had been working on a stage version of her life with playwright Mark Hampton when she died. Her funeral was held in New York on Thursday.
Well, a deadly winter storm paralyzed much of the eastern United States on Tuesday, snarling transit and shutting down federal offices in the nation's capital. But in Washington's trendy Meridian Hill Park, dozens of snowed-in locals took advantage of the heavy snow to participate in a massive snowball fight. I'm going to leave you this week with visuals from the United States. I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.